Welcome, it's Chris. So, oftentimes when we talk about board games, right, you go, okay, this is a kid's game. Okay, this is an adult game. Okay, what do I like in between? And you have games that equally are good for both across the board. And routinely, my answer has been kind of, as someone who has a 2, a 7, and a 9-year-old, that's sort of a hard demographic to fit, especially when I want to play something not always kid oriented, but I want to incorporate them as much as I want to into the hobby, as much as I want to indoctrinate them into the hobby, right? And this one came over to me from Drago Studios, Dodos running Dinos. And you may be familiar with this one, right? I mean, you can see the Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. And why is it good though? I looked at this and I said, does this really actually work? The truth of it is, yeah, it's freaking good. It's my kid's favorite game right now. My 7-year-old's and my 9-year-old's favorite game. It's outplaying, outmaneuvering, and just doing a whole lot of take that, but in a very lighthearted, fun manner. And who doesn't like to toss little wooden objects at other people's, riders, right? Let me talk to you about why this is that good and why you should consider it and why it might be for you or not. But let's talk you through it so you know. Let's do this. So as you can see here, I have the board set up right in front of me. This is one of the basic maps. You end up with 4 different maps just in the base game alone that you can play through. And you'll also see that on the maps, there is an inner track here with a start line and a finish line. And then there is an outer track over here doing the same thing. And so depending on what the length of the game you want to play is, it's all potentially available to you from that aspect. I've chosen 3 riders here. You can see the 3 riders. They all start with individual asymmetric powers. And depending on what version of the game you get, you can get the miniature version here, which is kind of nice and cool. And these miniatures are actually much better than I expected, or you just get the little wooden meeple dudes. And again, these are just very, Liege of games where, all you need is the presence, folks. And to be frank with you, it's much harder game with this. So if you want the degree of difficulty to be a lot harder than the adult side of things, use the wooden meeples. Because what you're going to be doing in this game essentially is you're going to be drawing from this very, very large stack of Inferno cards, as I call them, or the kids call them. And so with these cards, you're going to see that there are blues, greens, and reds, all different types of cards that you're going to be able to play depending on what phase of the game you're in. The phases of the game are relatively simple, right? You all take a look at the cards in your hand. You choose one of the cards in your hand. You lay it face down in front of you. Everyone does that. And then you simultaneously reveal. And in turn order, then you resolve these cards that are in front of you. In the lower left-hand corner, it tells you how many spaces you're going to be moving. Then it gives you an ability. And that's about the extent of what you're going to be doing. However, you'll notice that I played a blue one here. Now, if I had played a red one, the red ones are more powerful. The red ones are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, they're more dangerous, they're more take that. But if anyone else plays a red one as well at the same time, you cancel each other out. All of the reds cancel each other out. So only the player who then played a blue would actually get to go that turn. Intrigued yet? You should be, because it works really, really well. There's a lot of take that, though. You need to be aware of that. That's probably the biggest pro and the biggest con of this game. And that also leads me into the second point of the biggest pros and the biggest cons of this game, is because there is so much take that potentially, because you're going to be moving so many steps forward as you go across the board here. You're also going to move potentially back anytime you're hit by one of these little obstacles. And you have bananas, you have eggs, you have a meteor, and you have a log, all of which are going to be manipulated slightly differently. If you're familiar with Flick of Faith at all, the dexterity-based area control game, it's very similar in the sense that, okay, with this log, for example, I just drop this log from wherever over my character is, and if I hit one of the other characters, they have to move back a certain amount of spaces. The egg, I am just literally flicking across the board here, trying to hit somebody else's character, and if I hit them, then they move back. Similarly with the meteor, I just drop it from overhead, and boom, there you go. That's the sort of thing you're gonna be doing, and you can see now why the kids are, just a gaga over it, because this is, at heart what people want to do, right? Is they want to throw, they want to hit, they want to, knock other people out or knock them back. I mean, that is the nature of young boys in general in my house. It doesn't matter what the age, that's what they like to do. And so now you've incorporated that into a board game form of things. Now you know why they're interested and intrigued and love it, right? And so the variety of cards is relatively immense. And there are also the green cards that I didn't mention, which are react cards. And so depending on how mean you want to be, you can cancel out other people's cards. You can cause different interactions. You can cause different movements on not your turn, because green cards cannot be played on that face down simultaneous plays. They are played in reaction to someone else's card or your own card being played in between. And so that's just the difference of things. The biggest problem is when you take damage, and when you take damage, you move backwards spaces often, and that's where you're going to be sort of moving backwards and forwards, trying to make your way around these tracks. And that's sort of the appeal, right? When you're playing this and moving forward or moving backwards and taking damage, damage is not actually out here. Damage is based on the cards you have in your hand. So for each damage you take, you have to discard your cards from your hand to the discard pile. If you run out of cards, then you get to move back 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, but you draw a whole new hand of cards then as well. And so that was the big point of contention with my kids, but also a lot of adults, right? Like, I lose my whole hand, I lose my whole strategy, I lose my whole tactics that I had in front of me. Oh wait, I get a whole new set of cards, which are a whole new awesome different set of things all right away. Oh, I can deal with that because it's not a knockout. Because that was my other 7-year-old's biggest problem or biggest concern. Like, he gets knocked out. Like, the first time or two he lost all his cards, like, he got really sad. And then he looked at the cards that he got in replace of them, and he was like, oh, well, never mind. That was completely silly. I didn't even need to worry about it, right? So it mitigates that fact very nicely as well. Now, you notice I also have 2 dice here, a red and a blue. They're going to cause you some of the cards to have to roll the die, and you may take the sum total. You may take less. You may take more. It's going to change how far you're going to move, how much damage you're going to do, all of those sorts of things in this very, very take that race game, because all you're doing is going around and being the first one to complete a lap. That's it. Now, if you want to play a campaign, a la sort of a Grand Prix Mario Kart, if you will, they offer an option and a variety to do that. They also offer you a whole stack or slew of cards here to be used as asymmetric powers as well, in addition to, depending on how you want to do it, whether it's a watermelon or a Dodorado idol. So they all give you a little bit of something different flavor-wise that you can sort of customize it, again, to your own tastes. And again, the tracks being different lengths, having 4 different tracks with different variables that are going to go along with them, gives it a lot of variety in the base game. And it's, frankly speaking, it's just a whole heck of a lot of fun. And I really wasn't expecting this. The only question I have is someone who has the original Dodos running Dinos. They made a sequel expansion that just went to crowdfunding last year. And so it's just going to be more of a, is the second one that much different? Is it that much better? Is it a 2.0 edition? Is it just a standalone sequel, side along, and pick your poison, pick your preferred flavor of whatever, and, choose which one you want over the other? Or is it going to be, like I said, the 2.0, like sort of when people talk about Aeon's End or Aeon's End War Eternal, right? Like, everyone says get War Eternal, not just the regular flavor base game. No one's saying right now, go out and buy Sentinels of the Multiverse. They're saying, okay, go out and buy Sentinels of the Multiverse, the definitive edition, because it's better, because it's come around, it's evolved, and it's just, smoothed out some of the wrinkles that are in the base game in the first place. Not that there are honestly a whole lot of wrinkles anyway in this game, because as I just explained, that's pretty much the whole concept of the game in a nutshell. If you like a little bit of chaos, if you like a little bit of the closest thing to Mario Kart that you're going to see on a board game tabletop situation, with some dexterity as well. I mean, it's minor dexterity. I'm good at it, so it can't be that much of dexterity, right? But if you like that and you don't mind a lot of take that and just a fun premise, I mean, it's an absolutely fantastic game for all age counts of kids and even a lighter adult side of things. I would have no problem busting this out with my adult play group and having a good old hey hawkin' time. So I don't know, I just made up that word there on the spot because I was talking fast. But it works. It works at all ages and all counts, as long as you're like that. But the other thing I'll say is, as the first game we played through, the biggest detriment is, it says like about 20 minutes or so on the box. The first game was like 45 minutes because we had so much take that we were literally like on a turn going forward 2 spaces and then getting knocked back 3, and then going forward 2, and then going forward 2, and then getting knocked back 3. And so it was just a continual, just slow crawl, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, almost every single literal turn, until we got toward about 3/4 of the way through the map, and then it was, all of a sudden a race to the end, and boy howdy was it a sprint. The other thing I didn't mention is there is a catch-up mechanic, as you might worry about in a racing game in the first place. If you are in first place on the map, you actually get to move an extra space at the end. But if you're not in first place, you get to draw an extra card. And so again, this is sort of your life point situation. So you're going to have cards that are going to not only take away your cards, but also take away other people's cards. You got to sacrifice 1 card to do 5 damage or something, stuff like that. And so having more of these really does make a difference, and it has a nice catch-up mechanic feel to it without being too overpowered or underpowered in either direction. A lot of the asymmetric character powers, again, are the same way. I found a couple of them to be much more situational and more applicable. Like one of them, the one I used the first game we played, if he moves forward or backwards, and if there's someone only 1 space in front of him, then he does his power. Not if there's someone 1 space behind him, if he moves there. But then there's also someone who, anytime someone passes that character, they like do them a damage and they get to draw a card or steal one of their cards or something like that, right? Like those two things didn't seem quite as equal to me. And so, I mean, you're going to have some ups and downs there, but maybe again, that's how you play with the kids, right? You give your kids a little bit stronger one and you take a little bit weaker one yourself. And then, you know, you self-handicap and it's a great time. And, you know, even if you don't want to do that, you can still lose in your first game and your second game to your kids, regardless of how you try and play, because you're just not that good and your kids are better than you already at their ages of 7 and 9. Anyway, not that I'm speaking from practical experience there or anything, but going back to the beginning, it's more fun than it should be. I mean, the sum of the parts, again, is greater than the individual parts. I did not think I was going to like this as much. I didn't think it was going to be that much enjoyment just out of sheer moving dinosaurs, taking that back and forth with a little bit of dexterity. So if you have any interest in this, if you have kids middling age, if you just want something light, fun, and rompy for your adult group that plays really quickly and that, you know, you can customize how much take that you want to do, and, you know, the simultaneous action play of canceling each other out doesn't turn you off, well, there's a reason this got the Dice Tower Seal of Excellence. And, you know, if I had any sort of award system at all, whatever, too, I'd probably be thinking about giving it as well. So it's that good. But like I said, the only question is, do you wait to get the second one or do you just get this one now? So Draco Studios, check them out. Putting out some good kid games, good tweener games. I really am impressed so far by them. So take that for what it is. Let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns down below. Subscribe if you want. I'm trying to get to 10K. That's all I got. Stay classy. See you around. Have a great day. Don't skip leg day. Your legs will thank you later. Maybe. Probably not, though. That's all I got. Peace out.